The Emirates Aviation University and the UTN team understood the educational problems of our industry. And we know that universities are the space for the training and development of the next generations of aeronautical professionals. With the aim of achieving a cultural exchange, the new talent for aviation has been originally conceived by the group made up of the research department of the Emirates Aviation University and the Aero Commercial and Air Transport Department of the UTN, Martin Kong, Roberto Eriksson, and Fabio Ralcha. Throughout these presentations, we have worked so that our students are the protagonists. This leading role dedicated to our students also has another objective, that our next generation in aviation has more and better resources to innovate, and with a global vision of the industry. Especially in the teams led by the research director of the Emirates Aviation University's Indoga Mutava Raik and Omar Shafiq, who have made available time and resources to make the NTFA possible. So that the audience knows the fundamentals of the NTFA, we want to tell you that it has been created so that our future graduates and professionals who work in the aviation field today can work together on industry issues. Our aviation, from the Chicago Convention of 1944, is pronounced in its 19 annexes as a single activity involving all member countries. Beyond the problems of countries' resources and policies, aviation became a globalized industry long before the world began to talk about globalization. But until now, in much of the world, when companies in the aeronautical sector need to incorporate new collaborators, about 95% of the personnel interviewed do not have prior aeronautical knowledge or formal education. This situation generates a real financing problem for them, since once hired they will have to instruct them in a very short time and, in some cases, the previous one adds a collateral problem of cost and direct loss. Since after the trial period, must discard a high percentage of personnel for not having been able to adapt to the current requirements in the industry. These two institutions that today make up the new talent for aviation, understood the problem and have developed programs that value training and education, receiving formal university academic education. Thus, establishing a dialogue with your future employer using the same language. The university's aeronautical education establishes a direct link between the graduate's need for job placement with the job opportunities that the industry and the employer can provide. The NTFA kicked off with two brilliant presentations by leading professionals from Emirates Aviation University. Aviation Industrial Studies, by the engineer Mr. Hisham Abuzala, responsible for Emirates Engineering Management of Total Product Support and Suppliers. About the systemic tools that we have in our industry aircraft, Dr. Crystal Ioannou told us about aircraft safety and regulations. The National Technological University presentations will address the following topics. Fuel efficiency, with the contribution of engineer and captain and instructor A320 Roberto Eriksson and graduate student captain A320 instructor Gabriel Gator. The pandemic impact, by our graduate students, Maria Grazia, Julia, Augustina, Mirna, Egle, and Marco, accompanied by Professor Conk, gave us their vision of the impact of the pandemic in Latin America region, but providing a solution to possible conflicts that we may have in the future in an equal or more complex situation, with the contribution of Annex 9. And the last presentation, Personal Influences on Aviation Operations, by the graduates from UTN. Augustina will give us an introduction to what our research led us to a new look at human factors. Leonardo, Damien, Julia, Maria Grazia, and Romina will introduce us to the basic concepts of personal influences that will be treated in depth in the next editions of NFTA. These topics are addressed by UTN graduates and teachers, who have worked as a team to achieve the proposed objectives. These objectives are, the graduates investigate and the teachers accompany the investigation, so that on a day like today, we can show the aeronautical community that the search for solutions to our problems can be addressed by the university. That distances are not an obstacle to the interpretation and resolution of problems common to the industry. Aviation will continue to be a cultural link without borders. It is our wish as UTN graduates that at the next NTFA we can work together with our peers from the Emirates Aviation University on common problems.
We are open skies. If I have a landing slot, you are most welcome. You can land anytime. You pay the slot fees and land if it makes commercial sense for you. Some of the countries are limited traffic rights, but that's clearly for protecting maybe their own national airlines. They try to limit foreign carriers from landing in their own airports. But globally speaking, we can see this spread of open skies, the liberalization, clear skies now are coming up. It's more and more spreading, and that is causing a lot of challenges on the airlines within the country. So the more competitors you bring to me, the more it will be difficult for the local airlines to sustain. And to always they will require to compete with the visiting airline, because the visiting airline actually they could push on lowering their fares or ticket pricing, because they're going back home anyway. They have to fly out as per the traffic rules. So no matter what you offer as a ticket price, they could compete more than it's enough for them, a small margin. And that's why we were saying, because of liberalization, we're being impacted. But the biggest impact of all is the new business model, what we call the low-cost carriers revolution, we call it, revolution. Ideally, I look at the low-cost carriers to revolutionize the whole market, because their business model is different. Let me tell you a little bit about their business or business model. They fly point to point. There is no hub and spoke, which means they don't wait for any passenger. On-time departure. Oh, I like on-time departure. But full service carriers, on the other hand, they have to wait for passengers. Connection, we call it passenger connection. On low-cost carriers, that is not there. Also, they don't care about a show or a no-show. If you don't show up, they fly without you. They already charged you for the ticket already. So it's forfeited. No, full service carriers will rebook you, so you don't lose your ticket price. You see the difference between a low-cost carrier and a full-service carrier? Also, they rely on their short turnaround time in transits to give them more time they'll be more in the air than other competitors. They also have on board, good productivity on board. Even maybe products are not so premium, let's say. So their cost is less, and that's why they can offer you a better price. Plus so many other relevant items, like maybe limited or no baggage allowed. Everything you add, you pay for that. So at the initial stage, the basic ticket price is low, but there will be a lot of add-ons in that will make their business model thrive at the end. And because of that, we are led to have declining yields. I remember those days 15 years ago when we have 2-digit profit margins. Those days are gone. you will be lucky to have a single low digit in profit margin as an airline, even if you are doing the best in terms of load factors, in terms of offered services. There is a lot of pressure on the airline from that angle, from the competition and from the low-cost carriers. Additionally, we do have, as we said earlier, environmental pressures from the whether it's CO2 regulatory items, or we have other political pressures. Environmental could be business environment, could be natural environment. But when we say we are all suffering capacity constraints, capacity is important. We have a high demand on services, but we cannot grow. Yes, we cannot grow because geographically we are limited in terms of airports and in terms of other resources within the airline. You have capacity constraints, correct? Look at some of the countries, small countries, where they don't enjoy a lot of land. Singapore, for example. Singapore, their entire Chiang Mai airport is built on a claimed land. So they claim the sea. That is a very expensive airport to build. If I am building that airport on water, I have to claim land. Similarly, we are here a very small area in Dubai, for example, where we are almost a little bigger than Singapore, but we have capacity issues. So DXP airport is full now. There's not a single small ground I can build anything. So I cannot expand. I have capacity issues. Cannot expand the airline. Even if I want to. And that's why we are now gradually moving into DWC in about 40 kilometers from here, from DXP. And that's a new airport, which we call a future, but that even will be good for like 20, 30 years. So what's next? As you can see, is capacity issue is a challenge that we will always live with. Some of those are real, genuine challenges in Europe. That third runway in Heathrow, they started with the requesting back in 1988. You see that? More than, what is about 35 years plus. Till the government approved the expansion. It's very, very difficult. So there are certain areas, for example, in Europe, in the UK, not allowed to build even a house. Not allowed. It has to stay as a landscape, an empty land. Even next to the airports, they cannot expand their runways, their terminals. So that's an issue that we will always live with. Notwithstanding these challenges, we see successful, airlines. Look at this. Some of the trends I like to share with you. Next door, we have a good low-cost carrier established in 2002. Air Arabia has been almost 20 years old, and they go on a steady growth steps, and they are thriving even during COVID period. They are not losing that much, but they managed to sell through. The thing that I really like about this airline, I mean, their strategic thinking. Multiple hubs for operations. For example, since Air Arabia cannot access many of the European destinations, what they thought about recently is they opened up a hub in Morocco, far end of the Middle East. So why Morocco? Then I was asking myself, why Morocco in specific? Then we found out that Morocco was the only Middle East country, the only Arab country who have an open sky, unlimited traffic rights with Europe. So that was a smart move, actually, by Air Arabia to establish and register themselves in Morocco, and then start their operation there and being profitable since then. The other major low-cost carriers worldwide, and this is really the Southwest, is the first low-cost carrier worldwide. Since they established many years ago, up till this minute, they are still a profitable airline and a good business model, followed by EasyJet in the UK and AirAsia in both Kuala Lumpur and Jakarta. And these are good success stories for an airline business. So do you argue that we all should be a low-cost carrier? The answer is simply no, because low-cost carrier could make good, good business in a short haul, but a long-haul flight, maybe so far it's not proven to be so successful. And that is for the years to come. If you manage to bring your food bag for a 10-hour flight, then you could be okay. But the minute you forget your lunch, then you starve, and maybe you are sitting in a high density configuration where you don't have enough leg room. Some of the low-cost carriers are configured in this way. It's not maybe quite comfortable journey for a passenger because of the cabin product or cabin offered product. If you look at our industry, why we say it's a volatile, I call it sinusoidal, sinusoidal, up and down. Everything happened, we go and, we are impacted since the 70s by the oil crisis and the 80s and the 90s and the millennium and the wars. Not sure that is going to impact all airlines, but at least the GCC countries here or the Middle East countries, we are hit by those political factors. So up and down, and that to prove that when you look at anything you see below the zero line means here airlines made a loss. So even now, when you look at here, the biggest loss we ever made was during the fuel crisis, 2008, 2009. But now, if you look in the 20s, you'll be actually shocked. We didn't update that to the COVID, but it is in the $220 billion and beyond. Those were the losses of the airlines during the COVID period. COVID period meant as airline grounded their fleet. And you know what is a grounded aircraft means. The owner of the aircraft or the lessor or the bank don't care about COVID. They have a contract with you as an airline for 10 to 12 years, and you have to pay them monthly charges, monthly installments. But we tell them, well, this is COVID and we are grounded. They say, we don't care. We pay. So aircraft were grounded, plenty of them. The entire fleet of, say, Emirates, as well as all other airlines were grounded in April and May of 2020. And then even after you are grounded, to return back to service, that is a very slow action. It's April 2020. Now we are October 2022. And yet still, for us Emirates, we still have 35 A380s grounded since then. 35. That is a big number for an aircraft which is not designed to stay on ground. I did not buy the aircraft to just remain on ground and not operating and bringing revenues, bringing passengers. That's what I'm looking for. More passengers. I want 2 and 3 and billions of passengers to be transported, and this is as per them. Even in all the regions, we're looking after that. Even the worldwide forecast for 2030, we are expecting exponential growth on traffic, airline traffic. So we better be prepared. Now we are suffering even scarcity of resources. A lot of companies worldwide, what they did during COVID, 2 years ago or more, they dismissed their resources, their skilled resources, pilots, engineers, because simply they wanted to reduce their cost, and there is no revenue at all, so at least they will trim their cost. But when the market recovers, where will you get pilots from? Well, that's the question. Pilot is not like a ready-made on-call. Oh, you please join next month. He is up and running. No. To license the pilots and train them for your fleet, it takes many, many months. Even if they are fully like experienced pilots on and with the licenses, still there is a lot of work to be done. That could take even a full captain outside to adapt to the 380. It's 6-month training. So it's not an easy affair, or not an easy item to manage. You have so many drivers for the international traffic. I mean, whatever you find here in terms of passenger movement, student demand, business demand, and that is even growing, and hopefully nothing goes wrong around us, that traffic growth will continue and across all regions worldwide. That's what we like to see. We like to see people back in business and a strong demand for aviation. And even, believe it or not, even this year we found so many people are traveling what we call revenge travel. You know what's revenge travel? They've been locked in their homes for 2 years. So the minute travel rules were eased up by countries, people just wanted to travel. They want us to flee out. I want to go to Europe, want to go back home, want to travel USA. I just wanted to have some change, and that's what we call a revenge travel. And no problem, we welcome that. We welcome more passengers. We welcome events, global events. We're looking forward, to next month, the Mondial, the World Cup here next door, Doha, and hopefully we will have a lot of travelers from Argentina, because we have your team will be here, Argentina, in the World Cup. Believe it or not, people are sleeping in Dubai, traveling into Doha to watch the game and come back to Dubai. So it's like a 50-minute flight. And we bring all the passengers on our network and we give them to our feeder airline, Fly Dubai. Fly Dubai is a partner, is a feeder airline. And read in the news, Fly Dubai is in for a month and a half, they will fly every day, 64 flights between Dubai and Doha every day. So that's good business. Good people are, making that. So we are welcoming the global events, the global exhibition, business, leisure, travel, tourists. That's all what we want to be achieving and seeing. We don't want to see wars around us. We don't want to see hostilities. That is again gonna take us, we call south. We will head south. We will make a loss again. That's not good. So all of that is really what we are looking for. But you see here, look at this. That is a representative, scope of our profit. I think mostly you see the blue line, the blue bar, on the pie chart. The red one is our profit. That's it. So out of $1, we spend around 98.5 cents. You see, all in cost. So if you ask me as an airline business, I wouldn't recommend anybody to start up an airline. You remember what Richard Branson said. You start an airline as a billionaire, yes, you will become a millionaire. And means Virgin Atlantic, without Virgin Megastore, they would have collapsed long ago. So they are not making a profit. So it's a service we're offering most of the time. We try to make a good business out of it, but so many airlines worldwide are a service provider. They try to manage, but they couldn't sustain. And that is overseen from some of those trends, right? If you want to look at an airline business, you see who is making the biggest, As a business, all airlines is even less than Starbucks Cafe. You know Starbucks Cafe? Cafe is just a coffee place. They make much more money than airlines together. So it's not a good business. But as I said, it's a place where we try to compete and we try to survive. We don't want to be like those guys you see here. The list can go endless. Airlines establish, airlines fail. Fail because we couldn't survive. We couldn't manage well. And that is basically what you see because of the costs. As I mentioned to you earlier on, you see the fuel here, the blue bars. That's your fuel cost. Is never cheap. From whatever period, is always up and down to the limit where it actually impact our survival and make us continuously dealing with these issues because of the global economies, fuel pricing, the demand. Yeah, can we manage the demand? Some areas the demand is declining because of alternative modes of transportation systems and maybe falling service, and that is even putting more and more challenges on you financially, and then your yields are falling. But what is happening? Why yields are falling when load factors are increasing? You know, the load factor, it doesn't mean when you see the aircraft is full or nearly full that the airline have done good. Maybe they lower their prices, or they maybe sold some of the tickets at a loss just for marketing reasons, where they are after other source of revenue, like some low-cost carriers. They get a lot of ancillary services. They use their aircraft as a, advertising bulletin board, and they sell other items. They sell their services to hotels, etc., to generate additional revenue from the passenger and cargo. Payloads are passengers and cargo. So they resort to all those ancillary services to even secure more revenues so they can sustain, right? And that is basically what you see here from all the trends. I just wanted simply to share with you and tell you how is it in terms of, let's say, a pressure on all airlines, whether you are in a passenger or cargo environment. And you see, we could talk here forever about challenges and how to overcome the challenges, but we're living that all the time, and we're used to now manage that. But if you wanted to read more about these challenges and about the areas of influencing factors to the aviation industry,